Hello and welcome back to Football Pass. I'm delighted to be joined by former Everton and Rangers stalwart David Weir. First of all, David, we're recording today as Rangers have beaten Celtic 2-0 in the Scottish Cup. They're unbeaten in the league. Do you fancy them to go on and make it a double now?
Yeah, I think you've got to. I think that was a big game yesterday. Obviously, Rangers playing Celtic. I'm sure the other clubs were happy with that draw as well. In terms of it knocks one of the bigger guns out. So there is a clear path for them to go and win it. But there's still some really good teams, all Premiership teams that are left in the competition. So it won't be easy for sure, and the games will come thick and fast now. But I'm sure Rangers are favourites, and they deserve that in terms of how they've performed this season.
St Mirren knocked Rangers out of the League Cup. Do you think Steven Gerrard will use that as extra motivation to make sure that doesn't happen again to this group of players?
I think it will. I think that will give them, it will show them what can happen if they don't approach it properly or they're not on top of their game. And fortunately for Rangers this season, they have been. There has been a great level of consistency in terms of their performances, and that was a one-off really when you look at that in comparison to the league form, the Scottish Cup form, and even the European form. They have had a great degree of consistency that's been impressive, and I'm sure Stephen will be reminding them of what can happen if it doesn't go their way, and how football works. Every 90 minutes is a separate entity, and you've got to turn up, you've got to put in a performance.
Rangers fans won't thank me for asking this question, but Jose Mourinho has left Tottenham Hotspur today. It could spark a managerial merry-go-round down in England. There's various links already that Brendan Rodgers of Leicester could be tempted to go to Tottenham. Do you think it could open a space for Steven Gerrard in the Premier League, and do you think he will receive interest from Premier League clubs?
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will receive interest. There's no doubt, because of the job he's done at Rangers, and now he's started to add trophies to that as well. So I'm sure he'll be on the radar of a lot of other clubs. But I think he's made it clear that he's enjoying the project at Rangers. He feels like he's put a lot of work into it. I think he's got his own group of players. He seems to be being backed by the board, which I think seems to look like there's a good relationship there as well. So I think that's really positive for the Rangers fans. And I think he'll want to enjoy the position they're in now, in terms of they've just won the league. Hopefully they can go on and win a cup. And, these opportunities don't come around very long to go, somewhere else and start again, and then have to get in a position where you're capable of winning trophies can be difficult. And, obviously I hope he stays at Rangers for a lot of years to come. And I think the sound bites and the words we've heard from Stephen would reflect that. But football's a funny game, who knows? But I don't really see that happening.
Staying on the Premier League and European football as a whole, you played for Everton in the Premier League for a number of years. You also played in European football with Rangers and won trophies here in Scotland. The European Super League has been proposed by 12 clubs across Europe, 6 in the Premier League, 3 in Italy and 3 in Spain. What are your thoughts on that proposal, given your experience of playing Premier League football but also European football?
Loved both, in terms of... Loved playing in Scotland as well. Loved the challenge of that. And, I really need to know more about the Super League. Came out very quickly. It's been rumoured that, it was in the background and nobody really knew what was going on. So there is a worry there in terms of what it is going to look like, and, what potential impact it will have on the domestic leagues and the European competitions, because of almost an exclusivity to it, which is a bit of a worry, and no real sort of pyramid as such, and being able to get into it. And football, I think, thrives. It's not like an American sport. It thrives on promotion, relegation, and good teams, getting into good areas and getting into competitions. And you see Leicester winning the Premier League relatively recently, and you see that in domestic leagues all over the world, whereby teams can, if they're managed properly and invest well, then they can win their titles. So I don't think our model in the UK or Europe really replicates what they do in America, where it's almost a franchise system. So that would worry me a lot. I really need to learn more about it, but there's definitely worries there. But hopefully we've got the checks and procedures in place that, this can't happen. And, there is a good solution that works for football in general and football overall at all different levels, which is crucial. There's so many different levels in football. It's a national sport. So many people care so much about it. And we've seen down in England, Bury disappearing, and we've seen, we were all worried during the pandemic that some clubs could disappear. So, there are a lot of considerations, and football, and money go together now, that we can't get away from that. And you just don't want it to err too much on the side of the money, and and that being the sole focus. There's got to be an element of what's best for football as well.
And just from a Scottish perspective, the last question I've got for you, if there was to be a restructuring of the Premier League in England, could there be a potential for Celtic and Rangers to join that, or even other Scottish teams to join a more sort of unified British league in light of maybe the elite teams moving to more continental football?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how it works, isn't it? And for Rangers and Celtic, that's a great carrot to be involved in a British league, a European league, or whatever that may look like, because that is the next step. That's where Rangers and Celtic make their money. That's where they expand their fan base. That's where they develop. But you can't beat a Rangers-Celtic game in Glasgow. You can't beat some of the domestic fixtures either. In an ideal world, you have both. You have an element of both, and I'm sure the powers that be in Rangers will be looking at that, and any opportunity, as Celtic likewise, any opportunity that may come up that will open doors to increase the competition, to increase the challenge, and to increase the revenue that's available, that will enable Rangers to invest in better players and better quality and rebuild the things that need to be rebuilt around about the club as well. So I'm sure they'll have one eye on that, and in every situation there's an opportunity, and I'm sure we're all, as we start to learn more, we'll start to think about what may and may not happen. But football at the end of it this season is about the fans, and fans being in stadiums, and fans enjoying what they're watching. And I was fortunate enough to be at the Rangers Celtic game yesterday, and as much as it was a great game, there was loads going on, there was so much missing because the fans weren't there. That game yesterday with the fans in the stadium would have been electric even before the game started. And that's got to be at the forefront of everybody's minds, that the fans and what they want and the passion they bring to the games and the atmosphere that they add has got to be a big part of whatever way football goes in the future.